Explore exactly what it takes to become a successful day trader and the power of consistency from the minds of the trading's elite. This is the Beyond the PDT podcast. Here are your hosts, Bryce, Tuohey, and Matthew Monaco.
What's up, traders, and welcome back to the Beyond the PDT podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Matthew Monaco, and in this episode, we interview James Freedlender. James is out of the My Investing Club chat room, where he has honed his skills as a short trader thanks to their TAB program, which stands for Trader Accountability Buddy, and James has attributed a lot of his success because of that. At the time of this recording, James was green 32 out of the last 33 days, according to his Twitter account, but he did not start out that way, once being red for almost an entire month before finding consistency in the My Investing Club chat room, shorting these low float sidechick stocks. James explains how he trades, how he finds what a sidechick is, and even some of the day one trades that he plays. Aside from trading, James is also a successful businessman running a chain of high-end men barber shops that he founded himself with a business partner right out of high school. This episode is packed with both trading information and knowledge about the business world, so let's dive right into the interview.
So where are you from? I'm from Boston. I grew up here, been here my whole life. So I'm in kind of a really cold, boring state, but it's home.
No, we feel that. We're from New York, so.
Oh yeah, then yeah.
Not much better.
A little bit more expensive, but.
Yeah. James, how long ago did you start trading?
So let's see. So I started trading about a year and a half ago. I wanted to get into trading when I was younger. So I'm 25 now. And I wanted to get into it when I was younger. But pretty much directly out of high school, I opened my own business. So my journey's been a little bit different than everybody else's. It's something I had interest in back then, but I just didn't have the time nor the financial kind of means to do it. I was putting in 80-hour weeks at the time, kind of growing the business, and, it just wasn't going to be possible.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Just a quick background on it?
Yeah, sure. On the business?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So when I was 18, I kind of really didn't fit the mold for a traditional kind of American education. I knew kind of my next steps weren't going to be going to college. And I kind of felt that, I just could see the way the world was kind of going, and that, starting your own business was something that was solid, and could be scaled and grown. So when I was younger, I was kind of taught how to cut hair from a friend of mine who's now my business partner. And, I kind of saw a niche for that sort of market. And I opened a shop in the town I grew up in, and was able to grow it rather quickly. We've expanded so much. Now we're up to 3 stores, and we're just continuously growing and getting bigger and bigger.
So you're still doing this while you trade?
Absolutely. Yeah. I honestly contribute the start of my business to the success of a lot of it to the success of my trading, because it gave me the time and kind of the peace of mind. I wasn't trading for a paycheck right away. I wasn't trading for to become rich right away. I was kind of learning the process while still having kind of a financial stability from the business as I went,
Yeah, that's awesome.
It worked out really well. It was good. Starting young, you never know what's going to happen, but it worked out.
Yeah. Is this just like a traditional, like, kind of barbershop thing?
It's a high-end men's shop. We do a lot of the old-fashioned straight razor shaves. A lot of the new age style and stuff. We do the hot towels, lather, all that stuff. It's something that I'm very big on tradition, and traditional men's barbershop was one of the biggest things in the world. It's one of the oldest businesses, and I kind of hated seeing how pretty much everybody was going to salons and supercuts and stuff like that, and losing that time to spend with their family. And I kind of took that as, well, this is a cool business to bring sons, dads, everyone kind of closer together. And yeah, that was kind of the premise of our business, and it's scaled out and it worked.
Well, that's really cool too. At 25, you're doing this. That's awesome.
Yeah, man, it's good. It's kind of, you look back and it feels like it's been a long time, but it's been a lot of fun, man. And honestly, running a business has taught me so much about self-discipline. Things that are needed to kind of do what you have to do to get things done, to get to the right place. And for me, it's taught me so much in trading as well.
Yeah, could you, before we jump into how you trade and your type of trading too much, but elaborate, on that discipline a little more. What are some of the lessons you learned in developing your own business?
So I guess for me, you kind of had to learn right away that, you might want the big shiny prize right away. You might want the money and the freedom that comes along with owning your own business, or, in this case, you could relate it to trading. But at the end of the day, you have to put the work in, and running your own business is so similar to trading. A lot of people say treat your trading like running a business. And I think that's perfect because you have to put the time and the work in. You have to treat it like a baby, like you have to grow it. You can't just one day just speed up and just build too fast, because what happens when a business grows too fast? They usually close, right? And that's kind of the same with trading. You build up slowly. Over time you get a little bit bigger and bigger, and you wait for the right time, for the right setups and right everything like that, and that allows you to grow at a proper rate. And that's why we've waited so long to open each store. We don't jump to each new location, because financially we could jump and open 5 stores, right? But at the end of the day, we wait until the business is ready to handle the next stress load. Just like sizing up in trading, right? You don't size up too quickly, or you're going to blow up. And that's kind of what that's taught me along my way.
Take notes, everybody. That's important. I think that's probably the most important thing, is when people get into trading, it's just like and so many people go in just wanting all this money right away. And like you said, that's not the way to do it.
It's crazy. Yeah. I was actually, sorry to cut you off. I was just having this conversation where people jump in and all they want is the money right away, but they refuse to kind of appreciate the little steps it takes to get there.
Yeah. It's the journey, not the destination. Right.
Definitely.
No. So can you tell us a little bit, like, how did you get into trading? How did you discover it?
So I have a pretty funny story. So when I was probably about 22, just kind of well underway just at work. And, a lot of my family knew I had an interest in this. When I was younger, I started kind of like down the Warren Buffett path of buying, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, making my $10 a year, it seems. But, that's how I thought investing was supposed to work. But so everyone knew I was into it. And at the time, I was about 22, my cousin came to me and told me about this stock. The ticker is TRXC. And, it was this biotech company awaiting FDA approval, the traditional story of a stock that is going to get pumped up, right? And so at the time I had, like $2,000. Stock was at $1. So I bought 2,000 shares. And about a week later, it was at like $5, right around there. So I was up $10,000. And I just immediately was like, oh my God, that was my moment of, I got suckered into the market and I knew I wanted to do this, but I didn't know risk management. I didn't have any of those skills or any background as far as that. So I kind of let those gains, I kind of thought I was going to retire. I was like, this thing's going to keep going. I'm just going to become rich and, I'm good. And, I slowly let that win kind of dwindle back down. And I ended up only realizing, about $2,000, which is still good, but obviously could have had a lot more. And then shortly after that, there was the whole Bitcoin phase, and this one's going to hurt. So I was investing in a couple different coins. I was still learning trading at the time, like getting my feet wet. And one of them I invested in was a big pump, and I went up unrealized $30,000. And $30,000, I'm at the bar with my best friend, this kid Brian, and we're taking shots, we're drinking, we're having a good time. And I go back home the next day, and it's all pretty much gone. And I'm just sitting there like, wow, like I got hit with this. I feel like I got hit with a baseball bat, but like I knew right there that there was so much opportunity in the market and that I wanted to dive in and figure everything out that I could to kind of get started.
That's definitely one of the most interesting starts that we've seen, because a lot of people come on and they're like, right off the bat, I had like a 90% lose rate,
Well, trust me, my time came, my losing time came. Don't worry about that.
No, but I mean, you were in the right place, so at pretty much the right time when Bitcoin was going and stuff, and you started out doing the right things for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It was good. It worked out. And again, I think everybody has that moment, and I think most people can remember it, but when they get not suckered, I guess that's the wrong word, but when they get bit by the trading bug, and like once it happens, it's like impossible to get off your mind. And I'm sure you guys can relate.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I know the MIC, My Investing Club, has been a huge part of your success, but how long were you kind of trading on your own before you discovered any sort of community or anything like that?
So I was probably trading on my own for about 4 to 5 months. And at that point, I'd kind of been, I've been doing okay. A lot of it, when you look back on those times, like a lot of it, honest to God, just feels like a lot of luck. I kind of entered the market when I never really I wasn't that big on longing stocks because really quickly, like I joined a couple chat rooms here and there, and I never really found anything I liked. But I started longing stocks, and I'd buy a breakout, and I'd get stuffed 50 cents. Like I'd buy 1,000 shares or something, get stuffed 50 cents, I'd be out $500. So pretty quickly, I learned about short selling. And I found a few guys that at the time they seemed like they knew what they were doing, and they kind of helped me out. And I just traded a few different setups, and I was doing okay. I was slowly building up, but I would build up a couple $1,000 and lose it all, or I would go on these crazy losing streaks. Like I had like 23 days of red days in a row, or some crazy number like that. Just I would wake up every day at 5 a.m. and still have a red day, and I'd still keep coming back, and I couldn't find that consistency. So yeah, it was probably about anywhere from like 4 to 5 months alone before I kind of found MIC and found Alex and Bao on Twitter, and really got to know them and joined them.
So then what changed, when you joined MIC? You talked about the struggles. You had 23 red days in a row. That's pretty tough.
Oh yeah.
But then, you joined MIC, and I saw you tweeted like 6 days ago that 32 out of the last 33 days have been green. So there's been a huge turnaround in your trading, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's the biggest contributor to that?
What the biggest thing was joining a group that they're all like-minded. Kind of everybody's on that same page of they want to grow as a trader, and obviously they want to make the most money, but they also want to grow and practice good trading habits, which is key, I think, into trading. And they kind of, MIC has kind of done this thing where I don't know if anyone else does it, but they call it a tab. It's a trading accountability buddy, and you kind of find someone that you have similar trading styles to, and your new job is to rely on each other. You're there to help each other out. You confirm plays, you give each other feedback. And for me, that was my biggest change. Was I started adapting a lot of the strategies that they were teaching, but I still lacked that discipline, and I honest to God lacked the confidence to size into plays. At that point, I had started to really, really grow my account, and it was starting to get better. Just following them and not following them in chat, but learning from them and practicing the plays on my own. And I was putting in 10 to 14 hours a day just studying. But what really tilted the scale for me was I met this guy in the room. His name's Devon Oliver in chat, and he has just become one of my best friends. And we trade together every morning, and we have grown together and worked with each other to better our trading habits, to become more consistent, to keep each other out of a mess, and to keep each other from getting too oversized, too many of making mistakes, and for me, that was a huge aspect into my trading growth.
Okay, so before we go more into this idea of discipline and, like you said, treating accountability buddies, I think those are really big. I think that's huge. But so you're primarily a short biased trader. Can you kind of tell us what kind of stuff do you look for a setup for you?
So for me, my biggest setup for the longest time was I would never touch day ones. I never played the hot stock of the day because I didn't have discipline. I didn't have the right mindset to hit tops and bottom tops and, try to be the winner and the hero and that. So what I did was I would look for day two setups, something that Alex has taught me a ton about. And, he preaches that I don't want to say the easy money, but it's a lot less stressful. There's a lot less volume and there can still be liquidity, and I'm looking for these plays that are kind of, they had the day one, they had the run up and they came down, the chart was broken. It kind of created a bag holder chart, which I like to call it. You have set resistance levels to play off of. And it kind of made the idea of trading around support and resistance a lot more clear for me because you actually had set levels to risk off of. You look at the areas where bag holders still are, the last area of resistance where the stock really topped out. And that's kind of what allowed me to safely grow my account bigger and bigger and kind of size in a little bit bigger and bigger. Because I'm playing these stocks that are a little less volatile. And, over time, they padded the wallet enough. And that's when I transitioned into day one plays. In my day one plays, I'm pretty much looking for, I like the overextended stocks. I love anything that can run up. I don't care how high it goes. I love letting it form like pretty good meat on the bone. And then, once the chart is broken, the second that longs are kind of in that moment of like, oh my God, I'm screwed. I need to get out. That's when I like to get in. I'm not trying to nail tops. I'm waiting for the market psychology that longs are underwater and shorts are kind of stepping in.
Yeah. Okay. And that's That's great that you've been able to transition your trading into some more different setups. And
Yeah,
so we had a question on Twitter. Someone wanted to ask you how do you classify, like a side chick play? Because I know that's something that you talk about, and I know it's something MIC talks about too. So could you kind of go into what classifies a side chick play for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So honest to God, is pretty much what I said for the first one. It's just that it's the stock that everybody forgot about, right? It's the stock that was hot the day before. It was the pretty girl. The next day, no, they're not as wanted for some reason because there's a new hot runner of the day, and that's pretty much what classifies as a side chick. It's or at least a side play to be at least correct. But you're looking for the stock that people forgot about, and that you have set levels to play off of, short, and you have set levels to risk off of. You can kind of tell by looking at the chart who's underwater and where longs are underwater, and you can kind of tell what levels where if it gets past that level, longs are in control. So that's kind of the best thing about those plays is I think the chart, you can really paint the whole picture of the stock and the move. And so that's pretty much how I classify those plays.
Now, on those plays, the side chick plays, are you looking for a lot of the times they run really far the first day, fail, die, or whatever, and then the next day they might gap down or something. Are you looking to, get into that weakness, or are you just waiting for a morning spike and sometimes these don't happen? Like, what are your thought process on how you go about these side chicks?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I put my lines in there. I look for the areas of resistance where the stock was topping out and kind of had trouble pushing past. And I'm a big believer on the day two plays, the low hanging fruits, that you set your orders, you have fantasy orders, and trading is all probability, right? So you want to put yourself in the best position to have the best probability in the outcome of your trade. So I put my fantasy orders out there, and I'm looking for that kind of morning spike, that maybe quick little buying volume that's coming in. Look to hit those levels, have my orders fill, and have it reject. And then once it rejects, I'm a big believer also in confirmation over anticipation. It's something that we preach about every day at MIC, and I'll let it kind of hit my line, and once it hits, then it rejects and it confirms, and that's kind of when I'll look to add size. And on the day twos, the key for me is never go for home runs. I kind of consider them my wallet patters because I'm never really looking to get a ton of money out of these plays, just enough to really kind of feed that need to trade and really just pad, like I said, pad the wallet and kind of grow your account safely. And that's why I always keep them kind of in my repertoire of trades.
Absolutely. And so now kind of going back into, discipline and risk a little bit. On these day two plays, we haven't seen a lot of multi-day runners recently, but every now and then you do get those, the BPTHs that run from, 7 to 70.
Yeah.
And that was, that was a 2-day run. Yeah. On that second day, do you just try to, if you see it running massive pre-market, do you have any indications to avoid it, or are you just going to still play it and just use really defined risk?
Yeah, I mean, on those plays, like, when you're looking at the day two plays, you kind of over time after kind of tracking it, you'll see, where volume usually is. Like you kind of want, I feel like volume to be a little light pre-market, and you can kind of tell that when a little bit of volume comes in, you'll get that push you want. But the stock, what I always recommend people when they're looking at these plays is, put it on like a 5-minute chart, and really zoom out, right? And look at the whole picture. When you can see that anyone who bought over a certain level are underwater for longs, that's where you still want the stock to be kind of at the open. You don't want big volume coming in, pushing, because you can kind of start to feel when it's going to be a multi-day runner, because it breaks past that point of resistance and it's kind of off to the races,
Now, going back to the day one versus the day two runners, you mentioned that you were looking for like that moment that longs are underwater. How do you determine that moment?
So for me, I'm kind of waiting to see. I love to see obviously topping action. I love the stock to kind of be either losing momentum. But what really signifies it to me is when you get those big neck snapping candles. When you get that big rejection candle that anyone who chased long, especially when it's off like a whole dollar number, because you get a lot of traders on the long side or around a breakout level who are looking to buy that breakout. Especially in the market and kind of where we are and where we're in, is that there's a lot of chat rooms and there's a lot of people who are chasing alerts and stuff like that, thousands. So you have to assume when they're buying at that breakout and when it rejects and when it slams down 50, 60, 70 cents, everyone within that is now looking to sell their position, right? So you can kind of assume now, okay, this move it looks like it might be over. I always use VWAP as an indicator for myself. I'm not big on indicators, but VWAP kind of tells the story, in my opinion, who's in control, longs or shorts. So when you see those candles kind of snapping through VWAP and kind of signifying that the longs might be kind of out of control now, and it's kind of time for shorts to step in.
I think that's really important because you were thinking like from a long standpoint in order to finally then get into your short position. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I attempted to be a long bias trader, but anytime I'd buy, I would be buying a breakout and it would get rejected. And I kind of know my first thought process in that moment is I have to sell. Like if I'm buying at $7 and it snaps to 660, 650, I'm underwater. I got to get out as fast as possible, So that's why sometimes when you get those rejections, you get a little bit of a bounce, but a lot of long bias traders are going to be looking to kind of get out of their position and let the kind of stock unwind.
That's definitely, I mean, that's a smart setup right there. Was these the day two and the day one plays that you've been talking about, have those been the main trades that you've taken over the last month or so that have contributed to your consistency?
Yeah, absolutely. What it really took for me, so like I said, I mentioned before, I trade with this guy Devon and Tosh, T Bradley. Like we all trade very similarly, and what it took for us all doing and really putting in the time was, we look at our trades. It's kind of where are we making money? Where's the consistency? Where are the trades that we're kind of able to size in the most comfortably without kind of that heart racing feeling, and all that. So we looked at these trades and we just said, these are the setups that work. So my newest thing, and this has really been my mentality for the last, 3 months, was I'm going to eliminate any trades that I'm not consistently profitable. It's really a simple kind of logic. But, when you start to eliminate the boredom trades and the FOMO trades, that's when you'll start to notice your equity curve rising relatively quickly because the compounding effect is great. So I just kind of said, these are my two setups. They work for me. If I don't see them pre-market, if they don't present themselves during market hours, I don't trade, because the way I see it is I'm not going to waste my capital and risk my capital on setups that don't work for me.
And that all comes back to the discipline factor, that you're obviously doing really well with. And so now maybe you said this earlier and I don't remember if you did. Were you short bias, or were you kind of looking into short bias before you joined MIC, or was when you joined MIC, was that kind of when you really started focusing on that?
So I was short bias before MIC. I pretty much became short bias relatively quickly just because, again, being a long bias trader was not working for me. And who knows if I didn't put enough time into that to try to learn it, but I could tell that with this general price range from, $1 to $10, there was obviously somewhat of an advantage to the short side. So I got in pretty quickly. And then once I got into MIC, that's kind of when they really helped refine my short strategies and, how I kind of adapted with them.
Okay. Yeah. Understandable. Now, do you think that learning more about long setups, is that something you'd explore in the future, or are you happy and content just shorting it right now?
It's definitely something that as time goes on, I would definitely backtest and see if I could be profitable. But, the way my mind works now is that, when I look at my past, I'm on, I think, 35 days of pretty much green. And I see that, and I don't see any reason to kind of add to that now. Whereas right now, I'm still working on these setups. I kind of feel like if you're not the master of one setup or two setups, there's no reason to keep adding more. When there comes a time where these setups, where I consider myself like kind of at the top of where I can get to and kind of at the limit, maybe I'll look to explore. But I enjoy these setups. My brain kind of sees them, and I've really learned how the stock kind of reacts when I'm looking for these certain things. And so I think right now, I'm very, very focused on the short side.
But I mean, like, you and all the other successful traders that we've talked to, it's just been honestly the discipline factor that has determined if one is successful or one is not successful in trading.
Correct.
So how do you deal with the urge to trade every day? And you mentioned you weren't even really looking into other setups because you're just focused and disciplined on the setups you're doing. So what are some discipline tips that you can give the listeners?
Honestly, the biggest thing you can do is download some sort of spreadsheet and make sure you're always tracking your P&L, and as well as tracking P&L, kind of track the plays that you have successful green days and you have bad red days. And when you look at trading as a whole point, the focus is for most is to make money. So when you look at these plays, you see, hey, I'm green 20 days in a row. I'm green 90% of the time I trade this setup, right? then why would you look at any other setup? Why, if you're red on this setup or you have a 50% win rate on this setup, why would you look to trade that? So I kind of looked at it that way, that why am I going to take these paper cut losses over and over again when I can just sit here, be patient, and make money? It's funny, people think sitting here is harder than trading. Like, people think it's like so hard to sit and be disciplined, but when you realize that if you're just disciplined and you wait for your right setups in the right market for you, you can go in guns blazing, it's with risk management, but you can go in a lot less stressful. It's just a much less stressful trade. You can go in, you can play it, you can size into it, and you eventually learn how the stock reacts when it's in that setup, So, when you're sitting there and, you're taking small paper cut, even on 250 shares, you do that 10 times, it's $1 loss. You can lose $250. You can, it goes quick. So just for me, it's just you wait for your time, you wait for your spots, and that's kind of when you go in guns blazing.
Yeah, definitely. The less stressful you can make your trading, the more successful you're going to be. No question about it.
The more fun it becomes too, because for a lot of people losing, I talk to people all the time that they're not having fun trading. And, in my opinion, that's a terrible way to look at it, because it is a lot of fun when you find that setup or those setups that really work with you and resonate in your mind. And then when you only play them, you just know you have an edge in the market. And that's the biggest thing of trading is, do you have an edge or do you not,
Definitely. Now, obviously you said you were big on, backtesting and tracking your strategies and making sure that obviously you're trading your winning setups. How big was that for you kind of as you began to find some consistency? Was that a really big part of it even before you were consistently profitable?
It's funny. I was never a backtesting kind of trader. I kind of wish early on that I learned that can contribute to being consistently profitable. But when I became consistent and when I started recognizing that I was making money on these setups, that's when I said, oh my God, like I have to look at these. And, me and Devon, and we'll sit there night after night, like hour after hour, just digesting these charts and figuring out everything there is about them. And that's just kind of refining our edge. And, that's when backtesting and data collection became key for me. Is the more profitable I came, the more consistent I came, the more I would like to study charts and the more I would like to keep up with every trade that kind of followed that setup.
So is that something that you would recommend that new traders, even if they're not consistent yet, start doing right away?
Absolutely. I think the earlier in your trading career that you can find your edge, the earlier that you can find, where you can be consistently profitable in whatever setup that may be, the faster that you can grow your account and start working on good habits. Because good habits are created by trading the best setups, your best setups. What forces bad habits is trading setups that you know nothing about. You have no data on, you don't know how they react, you don't know how they play. So, for everyone who's looking to grow their account, there's something that I always wish I did. I always wish I started paper trading. Or even if I didn't actually paper trade it, just watching the market and seeing, kind of collecting that data and building, a playbook for myself and seeing these plays. Because I think when I started, that definitely would have helped me grow a lot faster.
Screen time and just experience in general is, a huge factor, I think personally, in becoming successful.
If you are at a complete disadvantage, if you're not recording your screens every day, if you're not recording your trades every day and watching them over and over again. I mean, I know Harry Haas, like we laugh, like we'll crack a beer and we'll just watch tape and you just watch the chart, and you are just really already at a loss if you're not doing that, because that's the best way to learn.
You're very self-aware. Do you keep a trading journal as well and write down all these thoughts every day?
Absolutely. I think one of the number one things for being a trader is you have to be self-reflective. If you're not self-reflective, you'll never improve, right? So the Bear, his name on Twitter, he's one of the guys, he introduced the trading report card. And I know he got that from Mike Bellafiore. And it's something that I love. I took it every day. I screenshot my chart. I put it in the report card and I write kind of analysis for myself, what I did right, what I did wrong, where I can improve, and I give myself a grade. And that has been just so, detrimental to me growing, that every day I can see, hey, you did this well. This is how you can improve it. Hey, you did this wrong. This is what you got to look for. So absolutely, trading journals, however you do it, however it may be, is so important.
So out of curiosity, you said that's kind of helps you to grow and helps you to see what you can be doing better. What are some things that you found that in the near future you think you can do better trading?
I think for me now, it's just kind of focusing on adding size to my positions. That's like my biggest thing that I've been working on these past few months. Is just slowly sizing up, but size up, you have to earn that right. You can't just jump into size. So the longer that I'm consistently profitable and the longer that I'm having these green streaks is the more comfortable I get kind of sizing up, and always, I can always work at waiting for confirmation on a trade. And still even now and then, every now and then I'll jump the gun and I'll enter a trade. And, so that's something I always have to focus on, is that wait until the trade gives you the best signal for you to get in. And that's the best entry you can have.
It's pretty impressive, honestly, that and again, it just comes back down to discipline, but the fact that you need to wait to add in size. And I think that's something a lot of new traders struggle with, because again, it's all about that. I want this money now, so let's just go in full size and hope it works for me.
Oh yeah. What absolutely kills me is that every day, I talk to these traders that they're willing to take, learning these huge losses, like day in and day out, tens of thousands of dollars. But at the end of the day, if you can just be if you can just be disciplined, if you make $100 5 days in a row, it's $500 in a week. Like the biggest advantage that I feel like I've had and really has been stressed in MIC is that you have to keep the value of a dollar in your mind. People see these profits and they get intoxicated by it. But you have to realize that, if you can make a couple $100 a day over the course of a week, that can be life-changing money to anybody. So you lower your expectations and, you compound those gains, and the more consistent you are and the longer you can stay green, your account will get to the point where you can size up and you can be making that money, but you have to earn it. Size is 100% a privilege. You have to consistently be profitable in one setup before you can just say, hey, I'm going to throw on 10,000 shares, because I'll tell you, it is a whole different ballgame. Emotions come into play, things that you never thought of, feelings in your stomach you never thought you could have when you have 10,000 shares and you're down 10, 20 cents the first time. It's different. It's just a different world.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I personally know that, I'm not a profitable trader, but I know I was trading best and I was taking very small size, and it wasn't about the money, it was about the setup. And
Yep.
I think that's great advice to hear.
Yeah, when I first got over PDT, I actually kind of took a look at myself in the mirror, and I said, I knew I kind of wasn't ready to size up. I was still making money, but I actually sized way down, and it sounds ridiculous, but I sized down to the point where my lowest point was I was using like 250 shares, but I was making it to the point where every time I was in a trade, my entries were as precise as possible. And every time I had a good streak of just a few green days. Trust me, it's like going from making a couple hundred or 1,000 in a day to like making, $50 and $100. No, it's not easy, but you're training yourself to enter a trade properly and to exit properly and the signals to look for. So, you can slowly size up. So I'd do that for a week. Then I'd go to 500 shares. Then I'd go to 1,000 shares. Then 1,500. If I had a red week, I'd go back down to 1,000. And I just kept going and kept going. Over time, if you just keep having green days, your account will grow, but when you take these stupid drawdowns, that's what stunts growth, so it's definitely important.
So speaking of, taking those big drawdowns, which again, a lot of new traders do, as of recently, have you gone through any tough losses that have shaped you a little bit?
Nothing too recent. I mean, the last big loss I took, it wasn't even that bad. It just, what actually rang in my head was that I broke my rules. And that's what kind of started this discipline streak, that I just recognized that, wow, I haven't had a red day. That one day that I break my rules and I trade something out of my niche and, that's something that's not my setup, I get whacked and I take a loss. I've kind of come to realize that I don't really, taking a loss doesn't really hurt me when I think of the dollar value. Like, it sucks knowing that you lost a bunch of money, but what really hurts me and what bothers me is that you blatantly went out into trading and broke your process. You broke your rules. You went against your process, and that's what caused the loss. So if anything, that just kind of reiterated it in my own brain. Hey, stick to your rules, stick to your plan, and it all works out.
I mean, your process has been awesome. And like all the way from when you first got over PDT and you actually sized down just to make sure your trading was good. And then you slowly sized up. It's process over everything else. You have to have a stable, strong process if you want to be able to make it in this game.
Oh, 100%. I think like we kind of said this earlier, but everyone's in such a rush to be the guy, big swinging around and throwing around size. But, it's like anything else, they always talk about this kind of this in the chat, it's kind of like going to the gym, right? If you're like a smaller guy, you go to the gym, you lie down on the bench press, and you struggle with the bar, that's so common, right? And then over time, you start working those muscles, right? You start lifting, and then you go to the bar, you throw on 10-pound weights. Same thing, you struggle, and you keep working at it, and so much of trading, you can kind of use that in that kind of mindset of, I have to work out these muscles and I have to get stronger before I can size up and add weight.
Okay, first of all, I think that's an awesome analogy. That's a great way to look at it. So kind of speaking about, your process, your trading process over the past few months, do you have like a daily trading process that you stick to? Whether it just be like a routine waking up. I know you said you talked to Devon, right? That's his name, at night, and you guys go through stuff. Could you kind of walk us through your daily process?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first thing, I wake up at about 5 a.m. I get up, I kind of check, I have my whole watch list built the night before for the low hanging fruit, because we're just using stocks that ran that day. So I check those, I kind of look I get borrows very early. I consider paying for borrows just right. It's the price to pay, the price to kind of play the game. And, so I'll get them. And I can kind of at this point have a feeling of what stocks are going to be in play for the low hangers. But, so I look at those, I see if there's any runners or anything that gapped up, and then I just go, man, I take a shower, I do all that stuff, go get a coffee, kind of settle my brain down. Most of the mornings I'll try to do some form of cardio. But I just found that, I just keep myself calm and, I just relax and I get back to the screens. And then pretty much from there, I'm watching every tick pre-market until about 9 o'clock. When me and Devon will kind of get on the phone, confirm our watches with each other, confirm our plays, and then, we'll trade from there. I try to, during the whole day, talk to people, talk to other members, and, keep myself from, again, straying from my process, straying from my plan. And then at the end of the day, whatever I traded, man, I go back and I dissect that thing to as deep as I can go. How did I get in? I watch the replays. Did I enter at the right point? What am I seeing on the tape? What am I seeing here? And then I pull my watch list and I do it all over again.
Say that's like, that's probably like 15 or 16 hours a day right there.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's crazy because you don't feel like you're doing it. Like you don't realize how much time you're putting into it because you love it. I love this, and it's something that I'm extremely passionate about. I mean, me and Devon, like, he's got a girlfriend. He lives with his girlfriend. I think we talk more than he talks to his girlfriend. I get home, we're on the phone and we're just looking at charts. And not only are we looking at our own charts, we're looking at other people's plays. How did they trade? Was it a good trade for them? If they made money, did they do it the right way? In our opinion, obviously in our own opinion, but we just look at all kinds of trades, stocks. We go back in the past. We have lists of runners that we just look at and dissect, and that's every day, man. It's been like that for like 6 months.
Matt, does that sound familiar? Talking to your trading buddy more than your girlfriend sometimes?
My poor girlfriend.
Okay, so this has been great so far, and I think we're kind of getting ready to start wrapping up a little bit. I know we talked a lot about discipline and a lot about your setups, but so for new traders who are really struggling to find a way to control themselves, what would you recommend? Because you came from, like you said, you had a business and that's helped you a lot. But for these people who are just really just kind of getting into it, normal people who maybe work a 9 to 5, or maybe don't, maybe they're just in school but are really struggling with that, what would you recommend for them to do to maybe work on building discipline for themselves?
At first, I highly recommend just, kind of what we said before, backtesting different strategies. There's so many different types of plays out there that, you can learn from different groups, whether it be from MIC or whatever. But you start looking at the plays that you find interesting, and you backtest those, and you watch them, you learn from them, you get as much as you can, and you play them, and you always just track your wins and losses. And then early on, you just have to hammer into your head that boredom trading, stubbornness, taking big losses is not putting you on the right path to being profitable. And the sooner you can kind of look at yourself and tell yourself that, the sooner you're going to start growing your account. I can't recommend enough, every day, just comparing your trades to others, get in a group with like-minded traders, always kind of have trading on your brain and, constantly grow what that's been the biggest thing for me, is just being around other people who can help me learn. And, it's just for me, setting up your own process. It's hard to say sometimes, but, finding what works for you, and sticking to it, finding rules, like guys like Alex, man, like Alex is a great trader, ATO9, but, he stops trading at like 10:30, 11 o'clock, because he knows for him, after that time, he loses money, and once you can kind of see that there are better traders than you doing these things to prevent themselves from taking losses, from doing things, the sooner you're going to be on a better path, and honest to God too, one of the biggest things that I preach about constantly is you don't have to be on Twitter to be a successful trader. Like I love Twitter. I think it's great. But sometimes seeing these P&Ls and sometimes seeing what people post, like it puts pressure on you, and you see other people doing these things that you're like, oh my God, this guy's made $10,000 in a day. I should be able to do that now. When in reality, it doesn't matter if Trader Joe or whoever made $1 million today. You're trading your own bankroll. You're trading the money that is in your account, and you're solely responsible for growing it. So always kind of stay in your own lane and, focus on that.
That last 2 minutes right there of your just knowledge dropping was incredible. I'm probably going to have to go back and re-listen to that right there.
Dude, 100%. Like just, all of trading is like, it's just, it's kind of like boxing, right? It's like you get knocked down, man. How well do you handle getting back up? And it's about weathering the storm. Are you going to stay strong during the times of losses? Are you going to learn from them, or are you going to keep doing it? Because the guys who can kind of weather the storm and fight on and keep constantly growing are the guys that end up profitable and end up doing really well in this business, it seems.
So, what's next for you in terms of your trading, or maybe even, your business that you still have and you're still working on? What are your plans going forward?
Yeah, so I've always seen trading as I love trading, and it's, like I said, it's a passion of mine, but it's also a means to other investments, right? So for me, I've always wanted to get into, real estate or stuff like that. And so that's always on my mind. But my goal as far as my business, I'd love to grow it, 5, 6, hell, even 10 stores if it's possible, and just really test myself, man. I'm one of those people that I don't like staying comfortable for too long. So I really like pushing myself to my limits and seeing what I'm really capable of. And, I'll never, as far as like trading, it's the same concept. Like I'm going to constantly push myself, every day I'm telling Devon, hey man, I want to size up. I want to increase myself and see really what I can do and push myself to the limit, responsibly. But that's for me is my next step in trading. What really got me into it was listening to guys like Eric Wood and Phil Godeker and, Alex and Bao, especially like the most out of those two, because I see them pressing themselves as far as they can go kind of down this path. And I'd love to do the same.
Yeah, I love it. That's the winner's mindset right there.
Yeah, that's it, man. Now you just have to see if I follow through, right?
Yeah, no, we'll watch. We're watching you, and I'm sure all our listeners will be definitely watching you on Twitter too.
I hope so. Thank you guys for having me, man. You guys are killing it. That last interview with Tim Sykes was absolutely hilarious. I was dying.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
You guys are crushing it.
Well, thank you very much for the time you gave us today, and would love to see you keep growing and hopefully have you back on in the future, because it's only going to go up from here, man.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see you guys this time next year and see how many followers you guys have. And yeah, we'll keep in touch, of course.
Yeah, thanks very much, James.
Great talking to you, man. Have a good one.
All right, guys. You too.
Hey guys, it's Matt again, and thanks for listening to the entire episode with James. It was truly a great episode, and if you have any questions, concerns, or issues with the episode, please reach out to us at beyondthepdt.com, or if you want to recommend someone to be on the show, also reach out to us there. If you have not done so already, make sure you hit the subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to this on, and make sure you check out our free newsletter where we will send these interviews directly to your inbox, so that way you never miss an episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next Wednesday.